afternoon. Are we on? Yes. Can you hear me? Good. Some of you, all of you, when I first walked in here, I thought I was at an Alabama football game. Red.
Wrong. Georgia.
Yeah, they got, yeah, you read
Try
that.
again.
Just tell me where I thought I was. Did you listen to the words that were spoken and sung this morning in worship? I'll remind you of one Psalm's first verse. Give our church a stronger vision. Help us face each crucial hour. Built upon a firm foundation, Jesus Christ, the cornerstone. Still the church is called to mission that God's love shall be made known. What a text for Edgewood Presbyterian Church this morning on this Sunday that you preached a marvelous sermon and led a wonderful service. Thank you for the process. We're here to have a family conversation. You didn't know you did so well, did you? Good. We do think you left out a guitar without strings, but other than that, you did really well. We're here to have a family talk. On Sunday nights, when our kids were in your classes, if we didn't have Sunday night meeting to talk about who's going to be where, when, and why, and how, our week just went chaotic. So Sunday nights became the time that we would have our family meetings, and right after we had dinner, we'd sit and talk, and spend sometimes up to an hour figuring out who was going to be where, who was picking up when, this kind of stuff. It's just, so here we are, and when things happened, when we lost grandparents, and when crises occurred, we'd have sit down and have additional family talks. You are in the midst of a transition. I am in the midst of a transition. So we're going to have a family conversation today about this process. I know that where I am in my process, my grief is acute. I can cry in a nanosecond, and before this day is over, I probably will. And I have a hunch some of you have cried some. When I sat in the sanctuary with Connie this morning, we were sitting there, because she and I are not normally having that view of the church, of the building. We're normally on the other end looking out. And I told her, I remember the very first time I walked in here, and I said, this is one of the most beautiful architectures of a church building in this city. I mean, there are a lot of historical buildings down there, but nobody has built this cross with all these beautiful wood inside. The closest is St. Thomas Episcopal. They have a similar, unusual, dramatic architecture that draws you toward God in His realm when you walk in. And just sitting there, the sense of what the loss is, it's huge. I remember the first time I walked into this room right here, we were leading a vacation Bible school. You were having a vacation Bible school at night. Does anybody remember that? Anybody? And for adults and children. And we did the adult session here, and it was fun. It really was a delightful time. What are some of the memories that you have written down that you would share? And Vanna here is going to bring the mic to you. And the reason we're doing that is we had a request or two that they couldn't be here and they would like to be part of what we're doing. So that's why you have camera. That's why we have microphones. So would you share one of yours that you wrote down there? Because I see you've already written one down. Is that acceptable?
Do you want to?
You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to stand up. You don't want
You
to.
did a list. Pam.
Well,
She
where's
went
Pam? Oh, do I have permission?
You do.
Richard has given me permission. Okay, Pam, you can hear me. There you go. Many things I cook now I learned from EPC potlucks.
Oh.
Joining EPC in 1970, it was a joy from the beginning. My sons, Ellen and Walter Chambers, were baptized here. They were both in children's choir with Norma Green. Church camp at Pine Mountain, candlelight Christmas Eve service, Easter flower cross, Barry Ferguson setting fire to his robe and carpet during children's church on July 4th. I know about that. That one lasts a long time. Circle meeting at Connie Heiss's house. Dedication of the new sanctuary. So thank you, Pam.
Oh. I wanted to ask at least one from each table. So that first, that had to do a nice job, even though she's not here. I'm gonna go pick your table, see somebody else will volunteer. Here we go, you got one over here.
Wait, okay, Pete? Well, my memory has to do with my first 8 days at Edgewood Presbyterian Church. Day one, I came by myself. No, I take that back. Day one, I came and I had Anthony and Eric, our middle and youngest son, and we sat in the very back pew. And by the time I got to Barry Ferguson at the front door, y'all know that door isn't that far from the back now. By the time I got there, he knew my name, all the kids' names, the one that was at home, and where my husband was in his name. And then he invited me back on Tuesday for family night. So I came back on Tuesday for family night, brought the kids. And then they invited me back for Wednesday choir rehearsal. And there I walked in the door. Norma Green says, "Hey, you must be Pete. Here is your music, here is your box, here is your robe. And then you gotta sing Sunday." I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm thinking, where are the kids gonna go? And I get up there and my church family, you guys know who you are. One had one in one transom, another family, Liz and them had another one in that section, and then over here were the Weatheralls, and they had one more kid of mine. I didn't have anything to worry about. I was already family, 8 days.
Wonderful, thank you. I see 1, 2, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 more tables. I'm gonna have to come up with anything. Since you're two of you.
Lucille's right.
Yeah, Lucille, Lucille.
She got one more already. Sandy wants to. Sandy. Yes, please.
Speaking of family, congregational camp, after my husband died, I divorced my husband, and I had the two children, and we went to congregational camp, and I don't think I saw my kids unless we were in bed.
Right.
Yeah.
They were taken over. It was like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. And the other thing was serving on a session as fellowship committee chair. And Lucille and I have had a lot of fun, and they become good friends.
Wonderful, thank you.
You were supposed to be arrested. Do you want to say it though?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll say it. Yeah, put it on the, but we'll put them
Just
on
tell
the
us about it,
basket.
put that up, yeah, there you go, put it to your mouth.
Okay, my memories are very similar about being like family. Just getting, we started when there were life groups in session, and we joined a life group where the people were what we would consider our parents' age, and
They joined with us.
so it was good because we needed that kind of foundation. And from then, just being good friends, Allison, she's not here, and her and I got pregnant at the same time. Our babies were born very close to each other. My son was baptized here. The talent shows, the plays that we've done here, Vacation Bible School, just too many things to list and mention. Just the care and love that I've received so much from here. Thank you.
Is there someone, Walter?
One of my favorite memories, which is in the box up there, is when I got branded as the biggest kid in the church. Okay, that's the point. But for 3 years, I was the MC for the logos. And I got to have more fun with the adults and the kids in this church than you can imagine in this fellowship hall, because everything we have, somehow they came with a costume for me, to include size 15 clown shoes. And I had the most fun I could ever think of, besides, who's here from the hula school, hula skirt? Bob, did you participate?
No.
No.
Walter had a Walter.
Yeah, Walter. The hula school skirt play we did at Peggy Alicia's house on the lake, and all the men and the women got to make so much fun of us, and I don't know how they taught me into a hula skirt, I will never know. But that is the biggest fun I've had at this church.
Oh, that's great.
So you're hearing stories some of you didn't even know existed. So this is always important.
As I think about it, all of my best memories here involve the kids, everything we did with the kids. And Pat Banks, your Sunday school, before Sunday school music that we did with the children every week, it was just so much fun. Father Abraham, love it, I could do it all over again. All the things that we did with the youth and the kids and teaching Sunday school, cherub choir. Was there anything cuter than cherub choir? There was nothing cute. Just everything to do with the children will always be probably my favorite memories.
Some of my memories, of course, started out when I was younger in the church, and then, of course, getting into youth, and then finding out how much I really could do around here without getting in too much trouble. One of the things that I enjoyed the most was after school on Thursdays, the youth would go to Valley Rescue Mission down on 2nd Avenue. We'd serve dinner to anybody coming off the streets, and it would always be a full crowd. So learning to be and have a servant's heart early in life has kind of brought me to where I am today. And things just keep getting better and better because the family cohesiveness of everyone continues to support, whatever we're doing here and there. And I think the upbringing in youth, being able to go on trips, on-tree, local projects, confirmation, stuff like that have been very impactful and will always be with me.
I want y'all, hold just let this hold this. I want you, she's gonna come just a minute. I want y'all to listen and look at him. You can give her that back, because I don't want to talk more. He started out in this church, and look where he is now. And the thing that has impressed me is from 30,000 feet out, observe what you've done over these years, is you just don't talk about the gospel, you do the gospel. You're a hands-on congregation. The first time I ever really saw this church was when I drove by one October, and you had 9,999 pumpkins out there. Literally, I mean, I've never seen that many in one place. Y'all remember it took you a week to unload the trucks almost, and then you had 4,332 left when you finished those shells, But you have been hands-on. You will still be hands-on. You still will be the church. You're still going to have opportunities to make a difference in people's lives in ways we can't even envision fully at this point. The church is not dependent on this geographical location. That's an important thing. All right, so I just want to make that point.
Most everything that I have as really vivid memories have to do with music. Even the music, I mean, I've always been in the choir and all of that, but I like those little plays that we used to do, and I don't know if you all remember Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, but it was a lovely song. And I wore the bikini. I was called forth to do that. I wasn't surprised. I'm rather foolish and all of that.
Personal sacrifice.
I did. I sacrificed for the good of the church. I mean, it was a tough, Susan.
There's a picture of it up there.
Huh?
There's a picture somewhere, I think, up there.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Oh, please. Oh, don't find it. Don't.
We'll pass it around.
Don't look. Okay, but I do want to say that I'm glad you mentioned the children's choir thing, because that was just a blessing beyond. I don't know if y'all remember Marianne Ennis. Do you remember her?
Yes.
One thing thing about the church, when I joined in 1970, something like that, no, it was I can't even remember now. Anyway, Mary Ann took me on as a mentor. I mean, the people on the session and people in the church just took young women and young people on as a mentor. So she taught me how to, I said, I don't know how to do flowers. And she came to my yard and she helped me cut red tips off my bushes and make arrangements for the church out of red tips. I was just utterly and completely amazed. And she taught me that. She also was the children's choir director. And she taught me how to be the children's choir director. And so when she could no longer do it, I became that. And on Sunday morning, that was my church. The 15 minutes of being with those children and singing those songs. I mean, I would sometimes tear up because it was so joyful and yet so profound. So it really was a wonderful thing to do. I appreciate the opportunity. The bikini part,
Except we all become as little children, we're not going to enter the kingdom anyway. So you're right on. Bikinis and music. This table's good. These two tables are exceptional. I'm going to call the rest of them.
I agree. Patricia always steals my thunder. But I want to talk about the music too, because the music program is important to me. And when I first came here, my parents were members here, but my husband and I weren't. And we'd been in a small church, and so we were kind of floundering as where we belonged. And somebody told Norma that I could sing. And somebody sat in front of me at church. And so Norma, I joined the choir with Norma. We've had really great leaders in the choir. We had Norma, we had Rose Slonker, and now we have Sue Ellen. And I helped Norma with the wee ones, the little tiny children's choir. And by then my kids were older, so I didn't know these little kids, some of them, they didn't know me, because our kids didn't play. And there was one little boy that was doing everything but singing. He was climbing under the chairs and he was hanging off playing with somebody or whatever. So I finally got him out from under the chair and set him in his, and I said, now we're going to listen to Norma. Miss Norma, we're going to listen to her because she's going to teach you a song. And he looked up at me and he said, my mama told me never to talk to strangers. So that's my dream.
No one stranger.
Well, it seems like I've been here 100 years. It really hasn't been all that long, but as y'all said some things, I've thought about life groups. I remember, where's Virginia? Virginia. Bob and I had probably been coming here just a couple weeks, and I was already in a life group study at Virginia's. And I remember that was such an intense thing. I mean, it was a new experience for me. But when we stood up at the end and we were going to pray together and we held hands, I burst into tears. It was just such a moving experience for me, and I felt like the women in that group had just sort of taken me in, and that becoming family right away. And then, of course, people like Liz and Fred Holt get a hold of you and say, now you need to lead a group. You need to lead a group. But the life group ministry really was very, very successful. And as I look around the room, I was in life groups or Bible studies with almost everyone who's here. And that's an amazing thing. Of course, my husband was baptized here. He was the first adult baptism in I don't know how long, years and years and years. My dad's memorial service was here. And then the Crafty Crew Gang is another one. And some of us still get together. We don't do any crafting anymore, but we still get together. But the thing, I think the memory that I have that I hold most dear, because it was such an awesome experience, was Sisters Sharing Closets. That was just an opportunity to serve, and it was so much bigger than we ever even thought it would be possible to do. And we met and prayed with women from Damascus Way, Hope Harbor, the other shelters. It was just very moving. So much so that Pastor George looked at us and said, we're doing another one. So 6 months later, we did do another one, and it was such a blessing for these women to be able to get clothing, to go for job interviews. Everything here was free, and it just was kind of gut-wrenching when they'd look at you and say, well, can I take 2 shirts? And we just said, you take whatever you need. But the smiles that were there, the connections that have remained since then, it was just a really wonderful time. I truly want a service that I never, ever thought of. Sort of appropriate backtracking a little bit. Patricia probably remembers, Pete probably remembers. We were meeting outside one Sunday, and I had this idea. And so I kind of talked, I cleaned out my closet, and I was like, had 6 red tops, almost identical. So we had this little skit thing going where we talked about how many of this we had in our closet, how many of that we had in our closet. And that was the introduction to the congregation of Sisters Sharing Closets. Because we certainly don't need 6 red tops. Yep, exactly. So,
I have a closet full, so could y'all all come to my house?
I retired from that business, but thank you. Again?
It's easy. Mine is really easy because I'm looking around the room, and we don't have any of the youth, but some of them won't remember this because some of them remember changing your diapers. That's how long we've been here. But when I said Brandon the big, you told on yourself. I didn't. But when I say I Brandon the biggest kid, and some of you will remember this when we did one of our final EPCCC up in Pine Mountain, y'all branded me as God. And I had to walk through the mountain, the wilderness, spreading manna, which was rice cakes, on the ground. And all these little kids walking behind me, I said, trying to eat rice cakes. I said, no. I'll give you a rice cake out of my hand. Don't eat it off the ground. Somebody knows exactly what I'm talking about. She was right there with us. But that's the kind of memories we make here in this church. We make memories, but it's for the glory of God because we do it in a way that the message gets through, even to the young and the old. And it's memories you cannot forget, no matter what you do. And I use those same memories even in my church down in Cordell. So I thank this church and this family for adopting my family because, as she said, when she first came here, I was in Korea. And I came here and I said, where are the kids at? She said, don't worry, they're covered. And they didn't come anywhere near me. They went to their church family and they were perfectly happy. So I thank everything that has raised my family and raised me in my faith. Thank you.
I will say that I'm real grateful to all of you taking care of our kids and also dealing with their discipline issues and not letting me know until like 5 or 10 years later.
Yeah, Barry came back to visit one time, and my middle one, who had a real discipline problem, he looked at him in the face and said, they let you live. All he could do was just laugh and say, they let me live.
So, one of the things that is being said over and over is that we are family. This is our church family. Yeah, but I'm going to talk to him. He can just hold it a minute. I know he talks a long time.
I'm gonna sit down. Yeah, I'm gonna sit down.
Many of you have seen The Lion King, The Circle of Life. So, my dad, the last 3 years of his life, he was under hospice like Jimmy Carter for a long time. He was under hospice care for off and on for 1.5 years. And that last year or so, he was in adult diapers. And my mother had gone somewhere, and I'm there with him. And he said, son, you got a job to do here. Change the diaper. And it wasn't the easy job, it was the other job. I'd never done anything like that in my life. Changed my dad's adult diaper. That when I was changing it, I thought, can I do this or not? And so we're spraying Lysol and we're doing all this stuff. And Now, I just seen The Lion King at the Fox with my grandchildren. He says, son, this is a heck of a note, isn't it, you changing your dad's diaper? I said, oh, Dad, it's the circle of life. When I was a little boy, you changed my diapers. Now that you're older, as your son and adult, I'm changing your diapers. And things got real quiet in the room. I said, son, I don't know if I ever changed your diapers. That was woman's work back then.
I was just gonna say that the first time we visited this church, I was blown away by the size of the choir. I had moved from a church that was approximately the same size, and we only had about 12 or 15 at the most in our choir, and this one had 41 in it. And it was really good, and of course I've always liked music, and Ann Mordick was always preparing things, and well, she had long offertories. You had to wait till she got completely through with the hymn, whereas now we just stop when the collection is taken. But another thing that impressed me a lot was that a session member who was Ed Gilmore was assigned to us, I guess, because he stood out and met our car every week when we came in and took us to Sunday school classes that we were supposed to go to. And I was just really impressed that he did that.
Amazing.
Anybody from this table back here want to add something? Good.
Anybody? Molly?
Good. I know she-
Okay, Molly.
Hi, I guess I'll be speaking for the behalf of the youth group. I've been basically born into this church. I've been raised with this church. I absolutely enjoyed every single bit of it. But one of my favorite memories is definitely going to be the church camps in Pine Mountain. Just being a kid, you know, hiking, exploring, catching frogs, swimming in the lake, just being little troublemakers as the youth group. I apologize for those that we've been giving you guys a hard time. Sorry, we were just having a blast. I definitely enjoyed the youth group, just being in it. Every activities we've been doing, like games, scavenger hunts, and all that stuff, it really brought us closer as a family. And I enjoyed the vacation Bible schools as well. That was my absolute favorite, being in groups and just causing chaos, you know, just having a blast. And then I also definitely enjoyed going to Costa Rica, you know, connecting to others that are in Costa Rica, and connecting with the youth group, and, you know, just being together as a family. So I thank you all for letting me grow up in this church. And thank you for raising me, and I really will miss this church. It's really been a blessing to be here, so thank you.
Thank you.
This is Bobby's. I came here many times for worship, sign language class here, Bible study class for the deaf here, Vacation Bible School here several years ago. Caption movies, popcorn, drinks for deaf.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
My name's Karen Howard. My daughter Ashley Howard went to Listening Eyes Preschool for the Deaf many years ago here. I met my best friend Lisa Cooper here in a sign language class at Listening Eyes. Lisa and I were friends for 31 plus years. Lisa had a stroke last year and passed away 2 months later. Lisa, Bobby White, and I also took sign language classes from Cynthia Fry here as well. I have also known Cynthia Fry for 31 years. My daughter Ashley and the rest of my family have many special memories here, and this church is very special in our hearts.
And I want y'all to pay attention, you got a need with your deaf ministry that is not being met in this community. I know one of the churches for a while did, but they stopped, so you continue. It has changed lives, it's met people's needs in ways you know not of. Every one of you have touched other people's lives in ways that we know not of. And you're going to continue to touch people's lives in ways we know not of. Anybody else from this table? Lucille?
She's still right.
Lucille, are you going to say anything, or you just going to write all day?
She ignored all the letter, like, this is going in there.
Well, could you say something while you're there? Would you mind saying, at least give us one memory about a polka dot dress or something? Amanda bikini, now can we get the dress?
This was from when I was a baby. My
Okay.
parents used to write all over my dress. But I got it out.
Is that anybody else still moved by the Spirit? It is the day of the Spirit. We got one more. Good.
I came here, Bob and I came here, just so we could be closer to Julie. And of course, acceptance at Edgewood was instantaneous. I know one reason it was because of Julie. But I have felt so loved and so blessed being here and being able to just visit and prayer team, and of course as Julie said, Sisters in Closets. That was fabulous. But it's a warm, loving, caring, accepting, all of those kind of good words. It's all of those things put together. And I just thank the Lord that we were here and Bob's memorial service was here. And it just, you know me, I talk a lot, but right now it's hard for me to find exact words to say how precious and how blessed I feel at being here. And I thank you all for accepting Gene and Bob Fleisch and Gene Fleisch.
Not just accepting, loving, because I would say in this room there's a lot of love, one for another in the process.
When Carol and I came in here in 1980, we sat in the pew with Randy and Herb. Most of you know Randy and Herb, who became here friends of ours. We were in a gourmet group together for many years with Marty and Ken and several others from the church. But I also remember all the times we had the young fellows from Fort Benning who came in. And Carol and I just loved to entertain those, and we would take them out to lunch and whatever. And I still am in touch with several of them.
Cool.
We still try to get together with each other. And then, of course, involved in Lively One Circles, the nursery. And I remember one Sunday when I was helping Allison Granger with Children's Church. We had 3 young children who left church who were to go into Children's Church. And where did they go? Into nursery. So I went in to get these 3 little ones. Well, they weren't little, but anyway, out. And one said, well, I was told I could go into nursery. I says, no, you belong into Children's Church. Well, one of them didn't want it. I got 2 of them to go. Finally, I had to practically drag one out of nursery to get into Children's Church. But then one other Sunday when I was helping with Children's Church, I had a little girl in the courtyard. And I said, well, you can't be here. And she says, well, you can't tell me what to do. And I says, well, I'm sorry, but you have to either be in Children's Church or go into nursery. And I said, where do you want to be? She says, with my mommy. And I thought, well, okay, I got to make this decision. Well, I went into the nursery and that got resolved. But I have a lot of happy memories because
Our daughter was married here, our grandchildren were baptized here, they were confirmed here. And now, of course, they're young adults, married themselves, and don't live here. But anyway, I want to thank everybody here for being part of my life. I really have enjoyed EPC for 43 years and continue on my life journey. Thank you.
Thank you. The pastor and preacher of the day. He won't speak as long as he did earlier.
No. Well, first of all, I was married right there. But that's not what I wanted to say. Before we had the opportunity list, it was my job to call and get people to volunteer to teach Sunday school and Bible school and all these things. And I remember telling my mother I was so impressed. It didn't matter who I called. It didn't matter what I asked them to do. Unless they were going to be gone or unless something providentially hindered them, yes. The answer was always yes. The people in this congregation, and some of them I know, every time they answered the phone and it was me, they go, oh no, what does she want now? I know that. But they still said yes. And it always impressed me of how willing. And then I remember, I hate to tell this, but when Liz came up with the idea of the pumpkin patch, I was sitting right there in the meeting and I thought, there is no way that this church is going to be able to do a pumpkin patch. How many years of pumpkin patch did we do?
More than one.
I don't need a microphone. What she said about that is about getting volunteers or whatever. Well, when Barry first came, and he'd been here a while, I said, Barry wants me to go to lunch with him. They said, oh no, don't go to lunch with Barry.
Barry could talk you, he talked me into a lot of things.
Well, the first month, or the first year we had the pumpkin patch with Liz, my husband, and Barry.
And Carol and I came every night and collected the money and deposited it, but we enjoyed that. Of course, Carol, as you know, he enjoyed life in general and was a big part of this church.
Anyone else?
Yeah, we got one.
Well, I'm really not going to say a whole lot, except I love you.
What an appropriate thank you. You know, where God is, love is. I was just back at Mercer University, which is my alma mater over in Macon. It's a great school. Can you say something? No, we didn't ask you to say something now. I'm talking now. You want to say something.
That's how she is. She wondered why she goes first.
She goes first.
She's older.
You're gonna do me in.
These two are really equally matched.
Please.
Please. Say pretty please.
Pretty please.
I'll do it. You just talk.
You just talk.
Now, when y'all were talking about Barry, one year Gene and I were out in the backyard, I was doing the weeding, he was just looking. This man came into our yard, Barry, and got down on his hands and knees to beg us to take the senior highs. And we did.
I can see him doing that too. Doing good thing. So when my parents both died, and I became an orphan because I'm an only child, and everybody of the previous generation had died except for one aunt. And so last weekend, I was at Mercer to perform the wedding for my nephew and his fiance. They just graduated from Mercer Medical School. And she had stayed with us last summer. She's going to be OBGYN. He is internal medicine. They'll be in Emory. Be in Atlanta. He's at Emory doing his residency, and she'll be at a hospital up in the north doing her OBGYN residency. In 1986, I performed his parents' wedding down in their hometown, my hometown, Donaldsonville. So, and my first experience of performing our parents' wedding and then doing the children's wedding. I'm going to do the same for Judy's brother and her daughter and fiance in September, which I'm thinking, that means I'm really old. That's what that means. But what I've discovered is these transitions in life that I'm in the middle of right now and that I'm going through, you are in the middle of one of those major transitions. And as I said to you one other time, it's a transformative moment that when you leave these grounds for the last time, that is a transformational moment, a paradigm shift that changes everything else in your life as Edgewood Presbyterian Church yet to come. But that's not necessarily bad. It can also be good. I said to that couple that day when they got married, this is a transformational moment for you, because from this moment on, you don't say this is my friend or my fiance, this is my wife, this is my husband. It changes everything that ever comes after that. So you have these memories. When my parents died, Judy and I looked at one another, and her parents had just died as well. We emptied out the houses, as some of you, maybe most of you, have done some of that. You have that to look forward to. My mother, I heard in the 90s there was a shortage of toilet paper. My mother was a product of the Depression. There was nothing she brought into that house. It didn't go out. We had every tin pie plate, we had every plastic container, the theology of scarcity worked at our house. She was in an assisted living home in the last 6 months of her life and loved it and had a ball. But we were in the dollar store one day, and she still owned the house where I'd grown up. She said, I need some toilet paper. I said, Mama, you don't even live there. She says, it's on sale, we're going to buy some toilet paper. We started having an argument in the dollar store about toilet paper. I said, when I get home, I'm going to count how many rolls of toilet paper you've got in the house. She'd heard there'd been going to be a shortage in the 90s. We got home with 8 more rolls of toilet, 2 packs of 4, they were on sale. I counted the rolls of toilet paper. You want to guess how many rolls of toilet paper there were in my house?
120.
184 rolls. 180. So when my mother was lying in the casket, I am not making any of this up. When my mother was lying in the casket, Daddy's brother's wife, Aunt Mary Helen, the one that's 93, was still alive. We're standing there and nobody else is around. She said, your mother does not look comfortable. I looked around and said, you're right, there is no toilet paper in this room. So I am not making this up. I went home, I got a roll of toilet paper, I came back, put it in her right hand down so the funeral director wouldn't see it, because I knew he might wonder what that was for. And so she was buried. So the roll of paper, she looked so, and I didn't mention, she looked so much more comfortable. She really did. So much more comfortable. And I told the funeral director, my daddy didn't buried with the Buckeye. If you're Ohio State, the Buckeyes, everybody good luck. We got one of those things, because he carried one his whole life. So it was appropriate. Oh, they had a little drawer in the casket. We put it in a little drawer. You put things in a little drawer. I didn't know these things existed. And I told the funeral director, he says, we've buried people with a lot of things, but never with a roll of toilet paper. Now, why am I telling you all this? Because when my mother moved from the house to the assisted living home, I had to get a crowbar and pry her out. And she nearly burned the house down twice. We had people in there around the clock, and I finally explained to her, here's what this costs, and here's what this costs. She says, well, we can't afford that. I said, that's why we're going to do this. Because I can't move down here and live with you. I'm my only child. Within 2 weeks, she was the happiest woman she'd ever been. She'd been caring for my daddy for the last 10 years of his life, because he'd been injured in the war and was struggling, and so she'd been the caretaker for him. And when he died, she was at a loss, but when she went there, I'd never seen her so happy. She had 6 months of, and then she fell and broke her hip, but it was like life came back to her. She came back alive. She didn't have to worry about what she was going to eat. She didn't worry about which medicines to take. It was just the wonderful care. There's no way you could have told her how good that was going to be for her before she did. There's no way I can say to you how good where you're going could be in this transition. You're going to have to live through it and see. But you are going to make it become a reality in terms of what your hopes and dreams are. Right there in the middle is some paper, some different colored paper. And there's some pencils and things that look like this. Everybody take one something to write with and one thing here. And I want you to, and you two from back there, if y'all would come up here, we have a table of 5 up here. We've talked about the past. There's nothing we can do about the past. We're living in the moment, the reality of this moment. No, there's no way she can behave. Here's what I want you to ask. Don't copy anybody else's paper. Do your own work. What's one hope or one dream that you have for the future of Edgewood Presbyterian Church? One hope, one dream that you have. Just do one, because we're going to talk about, put one you can talk about, because you can talk around the tables about this. Don't write something you don't want to talk about. One hope or dream that you have for the future of Edgewood Presbyterian Church. Now, when everyone is finished at your table, I want the youngest person to go first at your table. So we got to figure out who the youngest person is.
Sandy or Barb? The youngest. Who's the youngest? At this table. Well, we know it's not you. We know it's not you. Sandy. She's older than Barbara? And Barbara's the youngest.
For those of you who are like me and need kidney breaks, you know where the restrooms are. Just feel free to go back and forth.
It's just this table. The youngest at this table.
All right, who's the youngest person at your table? Let them go first. And just have a conversation about what your hopes and dreams are for the future.
What are your hopes and dreams for the future of Edgewood? I think Barbara goes first. She's the youngest person at our She doesn't have it now.
Okay. Yeah, so the church. What happens to the church? Any members? Live happily ever after. There you go.
My hope is that we stay together. Because we're closer and how clearly listening to everyone is evident that this church in general. And so my hope is to partner with that to move forward.
I hope that we can do whatever God has planned for us that we'll do.
Bring your families into the church, to know what Christian life is, and to grow in Christ and bring this message into our community.
Go figure. I come from New Jersey, and the church I went to, I don't know the city of them, that does Bible studies. And I was just getting back into the church, I had wrote that out before. And And then somebody was first, and then you farmer invited me over, and that's why I came. You farmer invited me second.
No, it's not to have a church.
And second, we had to go budget. And I was so excited about it. And I'm so excited. Betty Bennett, I was in Betty Bennett's class.
Well, mine's kind of similar, but it's different. It's just it's hard to mission. Because we're hearing all the time. These are missions.
Well, my hope is to bring in families and children, because children are all proper place.
Right. Yeah, it's gotta be a new creation. Yes.
I just left a church similar to this on State City.
Yeah.
And and there's no young people in there, and it's
I like your story about it.
They don't think it's
Yeah, well, my mother-in-law's one of your it's really
another church.
And I hate to say it, but you know,
But this hope here, there's no hope there. That's what I got. What are your dreams for this church?
I'm gonna go.
Well, I'm going to come here.
Okay, 2-minute warning, you got 2 more minutes before we wrap this up. 2 minutes. Make sure everybody's ready to share. 2 minutes, 2-minute warning.
All right, now we got that surprise. Yeah.
I guess you're walking. Okay, moving toward conclusion of discussion, 45 seconds.
Which was in May, so we broke it down.
All right. So I know some of you are wondering, are we going to do this all afternoon? Well, no. So we're going to get a report from each table, of at least one thing that somebody shared in terms of their hopes, maybe more. But we're going to wrap right around a little bit after 2, okay? So you got 10, 15 more minutes. Okay, and then we'll, is that acceptable to everybody? And we can go to 3 o'clock, if that's better, but I think we probably have some fatigue at that point. So we're going to start with this table. Would you share, you got the microphone?
I do, yeah.
Would you share what you said, please?
About hope?
Yeah, about your hope. All the others are similar.
So, my hope is that the Holy Spirit will breathe afresh in us, through us, and ignite us to move forward in new missions, new ways.
Thanks to your sermon, you inspired her.
Yes.
And I would say that would be all of our hopes.
Yes.
Now, what some of you have done is you put some specifics on what you want those hopes to look like. One theme I heard throughout from each table as I'm kind of walking around and listening was, we would like to have more families become part of our congregation, and especially that would have children and teenagers that would be part of it, because that's the future of our congregation. Now, I got that one out of the way. What else did you hope for? Start with this table over here.
Okay.
Somebody that has one that...
That's what he
You,
just
Richard?
said. That's what he just said.
Oh, yours is what he just said.
Yeah.
And that, yes.
Oh,
Somebody else may have a different one.
is there a different one?
I have one. You had a different one.
Pray that we all stay together. And
Okay, I know it, yeah, you should know.
pray that we all stay together and listen to God for guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Should be done.
Sorry, go ahead.
I hope that Edgewood Presbyterian continues in their ministry to the deaf community and also teaching sign language to others in the Columbus, Phoenix City community area. And then Bobby has one. This is from Bobby. Become a Columbus school for the deaf to serve deaf students in the area.
Interesting. Okay. Is there a Columbus School for the Deaf in Columbus?
The Muskogee County County School System
Has it?
serves the hearing impaired and the deaf.
Well, there's no church doing that ministry.
There's no church anymore. And I know City Auburn schools, I mean, the different school systems. And then otherwise, you have to go to, there's the Atlanta Area School for the Deaf, and there's Cave Springs in Rome, Georgia. And then in Alabama, there's the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and the Blind. And
So
Alabama School for the
there's
Deaf.
a niche there, possibility.
Yeah, we have an Opelika Regional Center in Opelika now, the Alabama Institute for the Deaf and the Blind does.
Thank you.
There used to be Georgia Council of Hearing Impaired office here, but it's not here. Most of the people the few people that work there are with vocational rehabilitation. I think they have a small office in there.
All right, thank you.
Very interesting. Some of you were in sign language class with us for about 3 or 4 weeks with Cynthia. Anyway, we're working on it.
Hi, I don't like to talk to adults because I'm a teacher of little guys. And I have had the pleasure to work with deaf, hearing impaired at my school and sweetest kids ever. We have dreams and hopes at this table. This is my family. So we have that we all want to become dreamers, or we all need to become dreamers. That's our hope, and to believe. Listen to the Lord. And to just connect, continue to be a family. Okay, I know some of us have some, I don't know, what do you want to say, want us to stray a little bit and not go with what we're going with, and I understand that, it's hard. But we're gonna just stay as a family because that's what we are, and that's what we do.
Thank you.
In college ministry. That's a stream. A nice stream.
I'm going to share Patricia's dream because it was the only one that's different. Well, not the only one. Her dream is for new purpose that all can become involved. For example, a video story of what our experiences are with Christ, and it would be a living video series that when new people join or somebody has a new experience, they would add to this video. And like I said, it would be a living, breathing. That was just an example, she said.
Spiritual autobiographies on video.
It's beautiful.
I was in a church that they did written spiritual autobiographies. Everybody wrote out their spiritual autobiography. Well, it was amazing what that did, and we've done a little bit of that. You did that a few minutes ago verbally. You literally gave us a snapshot of your spiritual authority, and this church has imprinted that. God has used this to help you to be sitting here where you are today. There's your faith journey.
A lot of that is in our 50-year book.
It is.
A lot of that.
A lot of that anniversary there. But that church I was in when we did that, and people shared that with one another on, I don't know, Wednesday nights we did it. It was a powerful experience. And I've been in another church and worked with another church where they interview somebody on Wednesday nights. This one of the people who've been in the church since cradle roll or came in later, and they just tell their story, and it's amazing to see how powerful that process can be in terms of that. Someone at this table?
These three really can be combined, I think, all together, but finding a goal or mission and that we remain true to the Edgewood family and possibly find a new church building where we can purchase and continue to grow as a church and a fellowship.
Okay, bear with me now. I'm at a point in my life I've never been just like you. But I believe with all my heart that God is not through with me. It's been 13 weeks since my wife died. 55 years. We were married. She was sweet. You met her before. And I believe with all my heart that God is not through with me. I believe there's a future beyond. I've told people, the thousands of people that I've walked down this road with over my professional career and the ministry I've had, it's quite different on this side. And I have a friend who I walked with him, and he's two and a half years later, he's married, and he says, "Ron, God's not through with you." I said, "I know, I've heard that. You're not where you're going to end up." "I know, I told you that." "Hang in there, this too shall pass." "Yes, I know that too, but it sure doesn't feel like it right now." So I know some of you don't feel like it right now. There is a future for Edgewood Presbyterian Church. God is not through with you, just like He's not through with me. So go in faith, letting the Spirit fill you, knowing that God is at work in this process, and He is going to bring you out, as He did with those children of Israel, with rice cakes on the ground. And they were eating them right off the ground. And they weren't boiling the water either. And they lived. They all lived. The quail at the mountain. So I'm honored that we had this time to remember, to dream, to process, keep talking, keep believing, keep knowing that God is not through with you. He did not call you up to disappear. He called you up to flourish, to bless you, for you to make a difference. And that may be in that, I don't know what that's going to be, but you will discover that if you're open to His Spirit and let that live in you as you move forward. May God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and give you grace as you move into this new, unknown part of your journey called Edgewood Presbyterian Church. Amen.